Hello everyone, Cassie here. Welcome back for another Heffy Doodle video. Today I'm going to be sharing several different ways to use the brand new Sweet Tooth Shaker dies. First of all, we're going to start off by showing you the different pieces that come in it. Sometimes just to look at a die, if you don't really see how it's die cut out, it can be a little bit like, what is this for? What does that do? And in fact, I did do that for that one little skinny piece that's curved, but eventually I figured it out. So I just wanted to show you some or all of the pieces and how those die cut out. As you see, that big circle cuts out like a frame, and also the smaller circle. This one cuts out part of a wrapper. We also have some sprinkles. It was this piece I was unsure of. This actually goes on like you're making a sucker. Very brilliant. And then this piece right here cuts a couple different ways. You can cut out, or it just cuts indentions in and gives it like the like a peppermint look. So that's what it looks like if you just use it on the cardstock. You can cut it out using this bigger circle. That bigger circle can also be used for bigger suckers or whatnot. And then we also have this one that cuts out little circles. So you can make sprinkles or bits for shakers. It's just lots of cool things. And we're going to go ahead and make a card and a little shaker element. So let's go ahead and get started. I cut out a bunch of different pieces. At this point, I wasn't 100% sure how everything was going to come together as far as like what the looks were, so that's why I just die cut a bunch of things. And I'm going to go ahead and make these look like popsicle sticks. Then I'm going to adhere down this sucker piece to the little circle, and then I'll attach that down to the popsicle stem, and then wait, if my glue will come out. And then we have our first little sucker. I'm going to grab my jelly roll pen, this is the number 8, and add some highlights because suckers would probably have some highlights to them. That really makes them come to life. And then we'll move on to another one. This is where you could make some cake pops, or just even if you had frosting on something, I guess. But the cake pops, ooh, yummy. And so I love that little piece. Imagine the possibilities of the different kinds of quote-unquote flavorings you could make, right? So we'll get another popsicle stick ready, and then we'll attach this one down to the front of that. Then I decide to bring in the sprinkles. I did cut out sprinkles using every one of those colors that you see up there, so I'll just grab 1 or 2 of each one, and I will save the rest of those sprinkles for later on making the card. But this is just a super fun element. Obviously, you could grab any of your embellishments that you have in your stash, but I love that the die has options, so you can keep it nice and flat if you wanted to. So I'll just use my pickup stick, and I will adhere down those little sprinkles to the top of our cake pop. And then we'll move on to making another sucker after I add a few little highlights to our sprinkles. Those could also be used as Tic Tacs. I don't know if they have those overseas, but Tic Tacs are like a little mint or a tiny candy that we have here. It looks just like those. Then I'm going to make one that looks like a ghost, and this popped in my head right away. It reminded me of my childhood where my mom would bring Tootsie Pops to school for Halloween, but she would have them covered with like a little Kleenex or a paper towel and make them look like they were tiny ghosts. Oh, I just loved that, and I loved it when you'd get one in your trick-or-treat bag as well. I've got some orange twine. I'm going to make a little bow. And just keep manipulating that till I'm happy with how that looks, then trim that down, and then I'll trim another small piece to wrap around. I just figured this was easier than just tying it right on. I'll take some double-sided adhesive, put that on the back of my little ghost, peel that off, and then I will wrap the string around it. So it looks like his little top is tied on the stick, just like when I was a kid. Oh my gosh, I love it. Then there is this piece, so it makes it kind of look like a peppermint background. If you use the smaller circle die, you can cut that out, and then it'll leave those pieces open, if that makes sense. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to I cut them out of each color. I am going to trim out a couple of those pieces. Just go ahead and use my scissors to trim them down. I want 2 of each one. We're going to make a multicolored peppermint type lollipop, I guess, is what I'm going for. So I'll trim those out, and I'll do it with all the colors, but to start this first one, I'm going to use the one that I just cut as a guide to put it on our yellow sucker here, or our yellow circle. And I'll show you what I'm talking about when I'll pull out my mini die cutting machine the one from Heffy Doodle, which you guys know I absolutely adore, use it all the time. It never leaves my desk. I have gone through a ton of plates since I've gotten this thing just because I use it all the time. So here I am using this one on top of my yellow. I don't need the frame that it's going to cut out. I just want the smaller circle that it's going to cut out. And if I had been thinking to save a little time, I just would have used some Heffy tape to tack that down, but I didn't. Yeah, so I'm just trying to make sure it's fairly centered, and then I'll run that through my die cutting machine. And then I can do that for all of my colors. Throw away those extra pieces I don't need. And then we'll start trimming those out and attaching down each of those to make a multicolored sucker. Now you'll notice because I didn't line it up perfectly, I am going to end up with a small gap, which really isn't a big deal. I end up covering that with part of one of the sucker pieces. I'll just put that right over the top of that. So you have this multicolored sucker. And then once again, attach that down to one of our sucker pieces. And then I'll bring in that gel pen once again to give it some of those highlights that we all love, which are super appropriate for a sucker, right? Because those shine. And then I will make one more sucker, set that off to the side. So there are just a few options. I mean, we could be here for days trying to make little suckers in different colors and whatnot. But now we're going to make a shaker pouch. So I went ahead and used that big circle on some acetate, and I'm going to attach it down to one of our frames that I've cut out. I'm just going to use some liquid glue. And then we're going to take these pieces, and these are going to be our candy wrapper. You could make it a sucker shaker as well. It wouldn't have to be a candy wrapper shaker. And then here I'm bringing in some of the 3mm deep. This is the 5mm in width. It's perfect for this, almost like they were designed to go together. And I'm peeling off as I go to make it a little easier to manipulate our foam tape. But once I get to the other end, I'll just cut that off. For our shaker elements, I'm going to use one of the brand new sequin mixes that Heffy Doodle has out. And if you haven't seen their sequin mixes, they are so pretty. And they're more than just sequins. They have all kinds of little bits in there. Oh, they're so fun. This one's called Tutti Frutti. So this one's brand new. And those fit in there nicely. And then I'll just take my back and just stick that right on top. That has that little die cutting extra in there. I like that. I think that's fun. And then we'll attach this down to our candy backs, our little wrapper pieces. And I wasn't sure at this point if I wanted to add this to our card, but I really love how that looks. We'll doctor it up even more later on. But here I have a piece of cardstock. This is just some KRAFT cardstock that measures 4 inches. 4 inches by 8.5 inches. And I am blending on some dark brown ink, just blending that up, kind of making it look a little bit ombre so that we have almost some grounding for what I'm going to do for my card. And when I'm happy with that, I'm going to bring in the Stitched Slimline Trio. So this is an older die, but it measures the full front of a slimline, which for me is 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. So I'm going to tack that down with some Heffy tape, run that through my die cutting machine. And here's where I decide I don't want to put my shaker on the card. I'm going to put another little frame over there to just make it pop even more. And I was going to put this backing on there just to kind of tie up loose ends, make it look a little less, make it look better back there. But this is where I decided I wanted to make it a tag. So I've got some double-sided adhesive and some baker's twine, as you can see over there. I'm going to stick that down over the top of that double-sided adhesive, and then I'll put another piece over the top, and then we'll just kind of cover that back. Peel off that release paper, and then we can put down the circle back that I cut out just to make it look more finished. So once that's on there, here is this cute little tag. You could write who this tag is to, but attach that to a gift or whatnot. Isn't that adorable? Think of the Christmas ones you could make. Oh, I love it. I need a sentiment, so I've pulled out the Trick or Treat from our brand new Ghoulfriends. Love that there are all these darling little Halloween stamp sets now through Heffy Doodle. They're so cute. If you have not seen them, you run and go check them out. They're so cute. I stamped that down onto some black cardstock. I'm going to cover that with some white detail embossing powder and then heat set that till that is smooth and melted. And then I'll trim that down and attach that down to my card front. Now I am very ready to start attaching all of my little sucker pieces to the front of my card. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to have those hanging off the bottom. I think that'll just give the illusion that there's more going on outside of the card. And so, and I'll vary their height as well, because that'll just make it look even more interesting. And once I get all of those attached, for all the leftover sprinkles that I had cut out, I'm going to attach those down to the bottom just to add a little bit more. I use every one of them, and you will see it in the picture at the end, I put little highlights on those as well using my gel pen, but we're going to cut off the excess here. And then we'll get our card base ready. That measures 7 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 3.5 inches. So then we'll just fold that up and get that ready to go. We'll attach down our panel to our base using that same liquid glue, and then we'll attach down all of our little sprinkle pieces at the bottom, make them look all like they're falling at the bottom. So cute. So check it out. I love how this turned out, and I love the little shaker pouch, but imagine the possibilities. This could be used all year round, not just for Halloween, not just for Christmas, not just for like spring or summer or whatever, just all year round. So if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Heffy Doodle has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.